Hello everyone and welcome back to the Brightworks. Today I've got a match sent in from a viewer like you. Love you guys to death and I love these games that you send in for me, and I'm excited to see what goes down today on Supreme. Straight sent in today by Cataclysm here, our yellow player on the red team. Gonna be spawning... Oh, sorry, I guess they switched positions here on me while I wasn't looking. I was gonna say spawning right next to the red team leader, who's gonna be Fenner1X, Fennerix? Oh, maybe it's Fennerix, yeah. Well, we'll go with Fennerix. Otherwise, it's Fenner1X. Either way, going to be the red team leader going into the ocean here on the southern side of Supreme Straits. Very exciting to see that. Love watching the higher skill players going for the frontline positions, just like our northern team leader here, Orange State, who's a player that I've been meaning to keep an eye on. Orange State has been up and coming, and I've seen them in a couple of the lobbies here and there. Definitely need to start studying up on my opponents. I've been climbing the ladder myself, been having a lovely time meeting and greeting with a whole lot of people, but now I can't play in those noob lobbies. I mean, I guess it's fair, right? Or maybe it's unfair if I go play in those, but I just love to have a good time and watch people learn. I think it's one of the greatest feelings in the world, watching somebody learn the game and become so much better. I never realized these little wheels spun right there. That's quite nice. Anyways, what was I talking about? Orange State. Oh yeah, that's right. Orange State I've seen in a couple lobbies, so I'm excited to see what they do on the front lines here. I feel like this will probably be a fair showcase of what they can do. Well, hopefully anyways. Maybe they had an off game. That happens to all of us, but for now I'm going to assume that this will be a great way to get a chance to look at some of these new and upcoming players here. We've had various spurts of new players joining the game. I can always tell because viewership spikes all of a sudden, especially the tutorial videos, that old series. I haven't contributed to that one for quite a while, by the way. Let me know if you have any ideas for anything that you might find needs to be elaborated upon that I could add to the tutorial section. Oh, I believe my housemate's dog is trying to come in and give us a visit. Maybe one day I'll show you guys a picture of a good old Levi. Anyway, spawning in the northern section of the oceans here is going to be X-Red, Colonel X-Red, and going for a nice little strategy here, getting some missile corvettes out and sending them across the map. Definitely what I would recommend if you're playing as the Cortex faction. Get at least one missile corvette. Two is not bad either, but I would say usually what I do is go for one missile corvette and then one submarine, and I'll patrol the submarine around over here somewhere, just because I think it kind of shuts off in case anybody's going for that cheeky naval lab in this position right here. Anyways, the missile corvette, of course, is going to fire at long range to try and dissuade any sort of expansions on land. It can also shoot out this metal extractor right here. Sometimes it can shoot this one, sometimes it can't. It's a little finicky. It's kind of luck-based, I guess. It's very odd. There's very specific positions it can wedge itself up on the beach and get into a spot where it can shoot those down. But at the very least, having it here is going to be really annoying, and especially for Bogak, who is in charge of capturing this shoreline, right? Ooh, is the missile corvette going to catch the constructor? It can be quite painful. That's going to take two missiles. One and two. All right. Catches the constructor. That shuts down the northern island expansion here for Mork, who is in the backline here for the red team. Quite annoying, because you really rely on that extra economy coming in to swing this game in your team's favor. Frontline is all vehicles already. Looks like Orange State has gone into those T1 medium tanks for the Armada faction. Going to be going straight up the armor class here to try and buff up the front lines as it is. Orange State now moving the commander forward, and I think I quite like this. Now, it's also very popular to go for a bot lab first and then go into a vehicle lab, and that's another way to get a really nice advantage on the front lines, because of course you have those res bots, which can eat up the wreckages of your own vehicles as well as whatever you manage to kill, and that can end up being a really, really effective way to get a tremendous amount of value out of your army. Spawning in the sea lane here for the blue team is Wendile. Wendile going to go for some hovercraft shenanigans. Interesting. I love a good hovercraft here and there. We've got the goons out. There's the Cortex hovercraft commander sacrifice in the backline here for Lord Vador. Lord Vidor. Oh, Soy Boy Goy going in for a cheeky little shenanigan over here, moving the commander into the water. Did not know you could drop the commander in there like that. Interesting. Yeah, Commander is down in the water, and that could certainly do some damage if we use the Commander to snipe this base. While we see that Cataclysm's Commander is on the front line, moving the Commander into the back lines, there's not really going to be a whole lot to shut this Commander down. It could definitely D-gun a whole lot of this base right here, and I think that's exactly what Soy Boy Goy is going to try and do here. Commander steps out of the water and is finally seen for the first time. Cataclysm must be having a tremendous heart attack at this moment, realizing that that's not a friendly Commander. Commander now takes out some of the K-bots, takes out the lab, shuts down production here for Cataclysm. Not only that, but also removing tons and tons of metal off the field here for our yellow player. Wow, this was a devastating attack here by Soy Boy Goy. Really nicely done. Cataclysm is now forced to either rebuild on the front line or head back to try and deal with this. The Commander needs to get out of there, though. We don't want to lose all that metal. The damage is done, but if we lose the Commander, we've essentially gifted the amount of damage in metal back to this team. So stepping back out into the ocean, I think that's a great move here. Retreat and regroup, and I think you're going to be in a great spot. Excellent way for the back line here for the blue team to get a little bit of damage in across the map. Very nicely done. Cataclysm decides to step off the front line, give up a little bit of space on the front, and instead rebuild in the back here. Looks like Commander is going to be heading back in this direction. Valder is stepping forward to try and help with this, but the Commander is long gone. The blue Commander, that is. A scout is sent out here. That's very nice. We are right on time to check for that really early vehicle rush that's been oh so popular recently. Although less popular. It was sort of a phase, wasn't it? Anyways, finds nothing. Finds no such shenanigans. We're back to tech and eco greeting as hard as possible here in the back line. So for the time being, not a whole lot to worry about for the red team. Fenner has gone all the way up to, well, naval control here. Naval domination. Total domination, if you will. He paid the wrong guy. Unfortunate. Unfortunate. This is quite nice, though, using those hovercraft to claim this island. I would have loved to see a couple of light laser turrets. You want about 4 of them. 4 to 6 light laser turrets can basically thwart even a commander trying to push up this hill. Certainly worthwhile. And, yeah, I think we should be starting up on that soon here and there for Wendile, who has decided not to contest the naval field here, realizing that there's already too big of a presence. And instead going to be forced to go for something else. So I'm excited to see what that decision is. Valder here helping Cataclysm rebuild on the front lines. Man, teamwork makes the dream work. Am I right, folks? Look at these commanders. Armada and Cortex coming together to fight the common enemy. The other commanders. Very nicely done there by Valder. Also stepping forward on the front line, producing units to make sure that the front can't get pushed in too far here. If Orange State is able to take this metal extractor, it could be a huge metal boon. I mean, think about 4.3 metal every second coming back to that blue player. Could certainly be really, really dangerous. Right now, the economy is only on 18. But yeah, if that shoots up anymore, that's going to be really difficult to push back against here. And yeah, that is certainly what Orange State is thinking as well. Obviously, he's trying to get his paws on that metal extractor as well, but he knows that there's not really going to be a great way with that artillery fire here. Looks like the front line was ravaged by a bunch of maces that push forward, but a lot of them go down here. Very expensive trade, and really for a metal extractor and a couple of light laser turrets, maybe a missile truck or 2, I don't think that was quite worth it. Yeah, I think that was just too much metal to be wasted on the front lines here. Oh, Orange State now has a sizable armored vehicle. What would you call that, I guess? Armored core? He's got tons of vehicles here, tons of tanks, tons of those medium tanks, and they're really difficult to kill. When they get into numbers like this, they can also snowball quite dramatically, and you can see that they've now wiped away all of Valder's forces. Valder steps forward with the commander to D-gun, basically the only thing that can efficiently threaten this many tanks, aside from, well, an opposed number of exactly that many tanks. That's a lot of Januses, though. That is 6 Janus tanks, 5 Janus tanks, sorry. 5 Janus tanks here. And I don't think that's enough to one-hit a commander. I think it takes 6. But both of these commanders are pretty low, so I would hazard a guess that if either of them did start to lock onto a commander, all of them managed to get a volley off, that commander would go down extremely quickly. Those Janus is showing us why they're so powerful, though. If you're just leaking tanks in one by one, or bots, or basically anything one by one, they're going to have time to reload, and those rockets do an insane amount of damage, especially during this T1 phase. So even well into the T2, though, they can certainly put the hurt on some of those T2 units. Cataclysm, oh, getting a nice little D-gun there, takes 3 of them down. Yeah, not bad at all. You have to posture the commander so carefully, because you move it a step too far forward, you take too many hits from those Januses, and this all crumbles. You keep it too far back, and your base is disintegrated once more. Rocketbot's also threatening on the front line. Oh, that commander's taking hits, down to 19% health. Gonna cloak the commander and retreat it off the front lines. Nowhere near enough energy to maintain that cloak, but that is starting to cripple Cataclysm here. The aggression from Orange State is just overwhelming, and now he's pushed forward. He's managed to secure this metal extractor. He's almost looking to capture this one at this point. Missile trucks don't fare tremendously well against medium tanks. They're gonna need some sort of armored support in order to continue that aggression. Orange State continuing to push forward here. Yeah, this is starting to look very very bad for Cataclysm here. Worse and worse with every minute. Well, there we go. Yeah, trying to use the commander still to threaten these tanks, right? The threat of a D-gun is pretty intense. Nobody wants to be D-gunned. Orange State's commander actually in a little bit of trouble here. These missile trucks rather can fire from really long distance, and there they go, shutting down a Janus tank. That's quite a nice pick. Janus tank not going to stand there idly though. Takes one of them down with it. Do believe that is all that Janus tank will have left to give though. At this point, Orange State is eager to eat up all this metal, and indeed I think he will. Looks like Cataclysm's commander does go down there. He's now down to a single constructor on the front lines. Things are getting very dire for Cataclysm. Now, knowing that this was sent in by Cataclysm makes me wonder what on earth his play is here, because this is gonna be pretty wild to come back from. Tons of dolphins sailing their way across the high seas over here. There's a couple of destroyers out. Destroyers are beat by dolphins, but there's also static defense, which helps against those dolphins, and eventually it'll shut them all down. You just have to survive, essentially. Dangerous to build these energy converters right next to these build power turrets, these nano turrets here, naval construction turrets. You know, one of those pops, the whole ship stops, as they say. Dolphins versus gunboats is a pretty good trade for the Dolphins there. Now the Dolphins are starting to get within range, and they will find their first destroyer. Taking them down one by one, definitely the right idea here. Elsa also contributing some firepower. Yep, and there we go. The build power is now shut down. Does it justify the expense of all of those Dolphins? Maybe. Maybe if we can get this other destroyer here. Torpedo launcher goes down. The heavy laser tower is also in a little bit of trouble. And, well, scratch that, actually. Not in that much trouble. So the destroyer is now laying down suppressing firepower, and the Navy can be rebuilt here for Boguk. Meanwhile, X-Red is not in such a friendly position here because his Navy is, well, there's no build power left for it. Gonna retreat the destroyer and try and rebuild it. Currently, the naval seems to be essentially even here. What I'd love to see is Boguk sending a constructor over here to capture these metal extractor points, especially since they didn't capture these ones with the commander or, you know, some other constructor or something. Yeah, it'd be really powerful if he caught these, because he already has the 6 metal extractors, but if he just keeps piling on the pressure here, eventually I think he'll be able to squeeze out a victory here. Now, X-Red has an opportunity to claw himself back into this game. He needs to get build power up immediately, but he also needs to reclaim all of these wreckages. Reclaim or resurrect, of course, is another option that they could go for. Try and get those wrecks back up and floating, and that would be one way to suddenly flip the naval battle on its head, go aggress Boguk, and force him out of the water. Frontline is stabilized with the assistance of a bunch of hounds that are coming out of the midline here from Jacker, or maybe it's Jakar. Jacker sounds a little raunchy, a little untame. Yeah, we'll go with Jakar. And I do like it. I think those hounds are an excellent support unit out here on the front. What I'd love to see is, oh, well, it's a bot lab. I was going to say handing over a console so that everyone else can build them, but we did go for a bot lab. Instead, we could hand out the butlers, of course. Those can rebuild these metal extractors quite quickly here. You can see that Cataclysm not done yet, still building those metal extractors, trying to build a little bit of build power here. Going to come up in about 50 seconds or so. Don't think there'd be any resource stall, so it'll be about a minute before that is up and ready. What are the backline's plans here? Currently unclear at the moment. Looks like, for the most part, Mork is just worried. Mork, by the way, the god of the orcs in Warhammer 40k, for anybody who doesn't know. Mork going just for anti-air here. Well, going for air, I should say. Going for these fighters, as well as even some light gunships kind of just patrolling around. Very interesting. Meanwhile, it looks like Lord Vador has, Lord Vidor has gone for a fusion reactor and is already going up to an advanced fusion reactor. Can afford this at the moment. There's just enough build power that he's actually increasing on metal. I think probably want to put down one more build turret. There we go. Very nicely done. And then start draining that metal there. That'll be quite good, and then also you can, of course, disassemble the T2 lab whenever you're ready and you need a little bit more metal. I'd love to see one of these constructors working on it. That's something that I often fail to do, is get those constructors working on things that you plan to deconstruct eventually. Just get them working on that a whole lot sooner than you really anticipate needing to. What was this? Oh, a little commander was caught over here. Looks like Orange State's commander wandered out into the ocean. Not sure why he was parked over there, maybe trying to get these metal extractors or something. Is there wreckage there? No, it's just the shade of the water blue. Okay, that's interesting. That actually kind of changes the tide of this. If the naval player here for the red team, Boguk, the northern naval player, can resurrect that wreckage and use that metal, he probably could overwhelm the defenses here of X-Red. Remember, of course, that when you're playing on this position, you're playing the beachhead position, you need to win C. You basically have to, otherwise you're in a really, really terribly inefficient spot. Ooh, some tumbleweeds are coming out. Love to see it. We've recently seen just how powerful those T2 tumbleweeds can be in the naval theater. They're quite dangerous. Oh, a bunch of bombers trying to bomb this. Wow, I'm really surprised we didn't get it there. Seemed like a lot of bombers, but I guess those were just the T1 bombers. They do not manage to detonate the advanced geothermal, meaning that for the meantime, most of this area will be spared. Typically, if your team loses the sea, I would say to go for a Prude, but the team has not lost the sea yet, so I think well within rights to go for the advanced geo, even though it is quite a bit riskier. Whoa, missile ships firing into the base here of Terminat, who is now taking heavy fire. The build power has gone down already, which is quite unfortunate. There are more tumbleweeds though, so I'd love to see these used. They do more damage if you self-destruct them, if you manually detonate them. So that's something to consider here. Bunch of blitzes trying to do something, trying to make their way here. They're trying to find a good engagement, right? You're always just trying to trade these out effectively. Missile ships continuing to be annoying, by the way, raining down fire on the advanced fusion reactor. Not gonna get it this time. Do they actually know that that advanced fusion reactor is over there? They do not. So as far as they're aware, they actually have already killed the base. Unaware of just how much more devastating those missiles could be if they just targeted the right area. Meanwhile, a bunch of blitzes have pushed through and turned this entire thing on its head, as now they managed to destroy a whole bunch of energy converters from this frontline player here. That's going to be 9B, who is learning the hard way just how powerful those blitzes can be. Yeah, the paladins are trying desperately to clean up the tumbleweeds. And there they go. It's a brutal fight. You try so hard to clean up those tumbleweeds, and all you get for it are broken and bruised, battered, and destroyed ships. They're a brutal unit. They really are. T2 has not been handed out here to Boguk, and that is a critical oversight. T2 should be handed out immediately to this player. It virtually guarantees that they will win the seas if they have any sort of a foothold, because they're going to get so much metal per second, so much more metal per second than their counterpart over here. But it looks like both of these players have decided not to aggress each other and instead try and build up here. However, it looks like units are the name of the game for Boguk, whereas the T2 production facility is what X-Red has decided to go for. Piggybacking off of that massive metal donation from earlier, as well as the already existing economy, and managing to get the T2 naval yard up and running already with a fancy chunk of change to spare here, so certainly could start going into these T2 ships pretty soon here, and I think that would turn the tides. Also has the T2 up. That makes a whole lot of sense why the economy is up and running. Also, a metal extractor lost right there. Metal extractor down, as they say. Wow. Very early quit here from the green player, who's decided to tap out, I guess, annoyed to death by those missile ships here. They have destroyed entirely the lab, reduced it to rubble, so it will not be resurrected, but Orange State is getting a nice little chunk of economy flowing into his piggy bank here as he eats up that fusion reactor that the green player had created. This suddenly leaves the entire right-hand side of the blue team's front line crippled beyond all reason. There's basically nothing to protect it. I mean, all these units can go swing over to try and protect here, but yeah, once these units go down, there's nothing left here. Orange State is going properly up to that T2, even got an ambassador out, the rocket launcher vehicle here. Wow, those missile ships can fire so far away. That is insane. They got to be near the end there. They even could really technically fire even further here. That's quite insane. Meanwhile, X-Blue has gone up to hovercraft, the T3 hovercraft. Quite a potent option against T1 or T2 Navy. They're very strong. They're not the best in the water. They don't beat ships, but they're pretty easy to produce. And typically, if you have a land-based economy, you're going to be much more efficient, and you can just produce a tremendous amount of them. They're also very good against the submarines, which cannot fire back, which is one way to deal with that really, really dangerous underwater lurking menace. Those predators, those orcas, those eels, those whatever the Armada ones are called. Usually, I know all the names, but I've been slacking on my homework recently. Marauders are getting ready for a little bit of a run by here, so kind of an interesting similarity, but also a little bit of a difference here. As you can see that both the players in the mirrored positions for both teams, being X-Blue as well as Jakar, have both gone for the same T3 lab, but both have gone for different strategies. So the hovercraft are going to be much more valuable in the naval theater, indeed shutting down this navy with a swiftness unparalleled. Wow, yeah, those dolphins, they don't stand a chance. They're tremendously slow here. Oh, Juno takes out a bunch of these landmines. That's quite nice. I'd love to see those dispersed a little bit. The Junos, that is. Meanwhile, Jakar has gone for the Marauders here and is planning to try and break through this line with the Marauders. Certainly enough Marauders to break through this at this point. Those are just light laser turrets and agitators. It sure looks like a lot, but those rocket bots won't be really, rocket hovers rather, won't be contributing very much. So certainly enough Marauders will do it. Probably, I mean, yeah, we're up to 6 already. And I don't think it would take too many more than that in order to, at the very least, open up this lane, and then you can start sending other stuff in. Be it hovercraft, be it like amphibious units, that sort of thing, be it whatever you choose to. Units getting a little aggressive over here. It's a little bit too late, though. These units actually should have been pushing a little bit sooner here, and I think they would have actually been able to rend this area open a bit more. But now the Marauders are leaking out of the back lines here. It looks like that is what Herman 87 decided to go for. And I like it. I think Marauders are one of the most powerful here. You can see the Marauders pushing through here with a dangerous speed as they march towards the economy centers of Wendile, who's now in quite a lot of trouble. The build power reacts. There are some hover tanks, rather, some heavy hover tanks, the halberds. Quite powerful, those, actually. Yeah, I kind of undercut those a lot, but they actually do a really, really tremendous amount of damage. They're quite powerful. Quite the sturdy unit here. Not enough to shut down the Marauders, but certainly enough to kill a few of them and scuff up all the rest. You can see these are fairly badly damaged. They should be not too difficult to take down at the end of all this. It's not the end of the Marauders, though, as they continue leaking in. Luckily, this advanced fusion reactor wasn't finished here. I mean, I'm sure Wendile would have loved to have it finished a long time ago, but it wasn't finished, which means that it doesn't explode all over the base here for Wendile, and so I think he'll be happy that he doesn't have to deal with that mess. Nice little Marauder run by. Oh, Spybot on the front here. Wonder what he's going to be up to. Any shenanigans in the backline? I am curious. Looks like mostly just ecoing up like crazy, trying to get those advanced fusion reactors up and running here. Yeah, we have enough build power. We actually don't have enough energy converters at the moment. Although a lot of it is being spent on building build power, a lot of energy, that is. So, not the end of the world, certainly. Kind of interesting stalemate right here where neither of these players really wants to be committing to building too many units. Boguk is tremendously behind, though, without this T2 economy here. Just barely getting into the T2 metal extractors. So unfortunate that nobody gave him one from the backline. Tremendous oversight not to hand everyone on the team a T2 player, or T2 constructor at some point. Yeah, it looks like an engagement went down over here in the Northern Sea that I did not catch, and you can see just how that went. Yeah, not well. Not well at all. Pinpointer was even built here. That's quite nice. It's going to let those long-range ships fire more accurately here. Capital ship firing on these Marauders that are marching forward. That is quite a wave of fiends, though. Definitely going to try and get their money's worth. Ooh, we're going to self-destruct here. Oh. We will get it. Very nicely done. That shuts down basically all those Marauders. Very nicely done. Cataclysm clawing himself back into this game. Oh, nice. Another Spybot over here I didn't even see, but that also shuts down a lot of those bulls over here. And what was, at one point, a tremendously devastating looking push has now been rendered almost ineffective. That was really nicely done. Those Spybots were in just the right position at just the right time. Very, very nicely done. Up to T2 bots rather for Cataclysm on the front lines. It looks like a Noosphere has also gone up to those T2 vehicles for Armada. He's trying to get some Starlights out. Not a bad idea. Starlight's very powerful, of course. Hover tanks moving their way across the sea, using those anti-grav generator fields under their, well, 2 big feet in order to float their way towards the base here of Bogak, who is helplessly making as many dolphins as possible. I don't think they are going to be able to stand much of a chance against this T3, T2 army. Navy, rather. I always say that wrong. I'm so used to calling everything a navy, or an army. I'm getting it backwards. Oh boy. Need to go have another cup of coffee or something. Surprised this area didn't have more pressure applied to it. More and more marauders through that might have been nice. Jakar here going for some eco. I guess that explains what's going on. Leaking, oh no, sorry, that must have been someone else. Yeah, Jakar is going for the eco here. Running a little bit shy on metal. Yeah, not quite going to be able to finish that advanced fusion reactor. Already starts up another one, okay. What I would do if I was this guy and I was so focused on building these advanced fusion reactors is put down a metal storage, eat up this T3 lab since not using it anyway, and then build that advanced fusion reactor right away. Don't even worry about trying to balance between the two. Just go full balls all the way into the eco, and you're gonna grow exponentially, just as we have often seen, particularly by Nostradamus. What an excellent character to do a little bit of a study on how to exponentially grow your economy. Very, very powerful player. All right, I think I'm gonna speed this one up a little bit here. And I'm going to immediately slow back down. Right on time with some action here, just so that I don't get bored. Thank you so much, X-Blue, for keeping me entertained here. Moving a Titan as well as a whole bunch of these hover tanks here. Completely destroy all those dolphins. Not a chance in the world. Those torpedo launchers also can't fire those hovercrafts, so they didn't really stand much of an effect. Anti-air is also brought out here. Very nicely done to include that. That's going to shut down a whole lot of the air forces here. Whether or not the fighters live or die for the blue team doesn't really matter here, just as long as the fighters for the red team are going down. What I mean by that is effectively this is a free trade, right? Anytime you can catch a bunch of units under the fire, a bunch of air units under the fire of anti-air boats, it's basically always a positive trade. Bogak's commander here trying to get a cheeky little D-gun perhaps, but these heavy tanks, these lunkheads, are continuing to fire their little impulse warhead bombs. And down goes the commander. That's pretty brutal. That leaves the northern side of the red team completely exposed here. More spy bots going out. Looks like Cataclysm is not done yet with the funky spy bots. They're very powerful. Those the EMP from those spy bots can certainly turn an engagement, just like we saw on the front lines over here. It is a very powerful force to be reckoned with, that's for sure. Ooh, Valder gets a nice little D-gun there, takes out the Titan. That's certainly one of the important aspects of this. Meanwhile, some Shiva are going to be tasked with cleaning up the remainder of these hover tanks. That is also quite nice to see here coming out of the backline. A lot of times the backline eco players don't get into the game until well into the 30-minute mark or so, and that's far, far too late. Now with the Air Forces eradicated here, some bombers are going to try and push through. There is some flak, though, and it will shut down these bombers before they can make it to their targets. Yep, all the bombers go down. Unfortunate for the blue player, did not have the scout, I'm assuming, but now he knows there is some heavy flak over there. Going to have to include quite a few scouts or some fighters, or maybe just some cheaper T1 aircraft in order to draw the attention from those flak turrets before making a bombing run. Again, very unfortunate to see that this eastern side here isn't being pushed a little bit harder. With the economy completely destroyed here for Wendile, I think it could stand to be pressured a little bit harsher here. I think certainly that might be a effective way to apply a little bit of harassment to the blue team. Advanced fusion reactor did go down at some point. Looks like the commander as well, and good though. Dancing up a storm. Time to boogie oogie on down to Funky Town, as the kids say, I hear. Razorbacks have hit the front line. I've said it before, but you know, when you see your first Razorback in a game, it's sort of an oh shit moment. You just you can't really help yourself. You see the Razorback coming, and you're like, this is the end. Oh, lucky little shot from the Razorback there. It does take out the spy bot that I think was intended to shut down these Razorbacks. Or at least temporarily shut down these Razorbacks. The involuntary off switch, as I like to call it. One of the Razorbacks goes down. The second one is looking very critical. It goes down as well, and the third one is also under heavy fire. And does not manage to get the lab. All right, he holds. He holds. It's a lot of units right there. You know, they're great against all those units. A spy bot. Yep, he thinks the same thing. I'm starting to sense a bit of a pattern here from Cataclysm, and I think I like it quite a bit. Oh, there's a spy bot on the wreckage here of this Marauder. Cheeky little bugger. Hiding in the wreckage of a Marauder. What a sneaky thing to do. Titans can be paralyzed, so they are actually, it is actually effective to shoot those with or to hit them with a paralyzer of some sort, whether it be shurikens, whether it be EMP missiles. Oh, I thought that nuke air bursted. No, I was completely unaware at the moment. Yep, Valder's base is now wiped off the face of this map. There's not a whole lot left here, as Valder is now reduced to a single T2 lab here. I guess that's better than nothing, but this commander is still walking on. Titan, rather, is continuing to walk forward here. Shiva doing their best to burst this thing down, but it's just, it keeps walking to try and disassemble it. Pull it apart bit by bit. It won't focus down the turrets, and they will actually be able to eat it up. That's a lot of metal that's going to go back to the red team. That's always, you know, one nice benefit of whenever you manage to eat up one of those big beefy boys. You end up with a whole lot of metal in your back pocket, as you can see. Cataclysm, as well as not having any unit production now. Yeah, overflowing quite a bit of metal. Okay. That leaves the Shiva with basically an open path here. There's a single Titan standing in the way. We can start whittling it down, though. Those rockets are very dangerous, and especially if the Titan's just going to hang out there. I break defenses. I sure hope you do. I sure hope you do. Looks like that capital ship, as well as its escort of other... what should we call them? It's escort of other accompanying ships in this fleet, if you will. Oh, nuke comes down. Wow. For the second time this game, Cataclysm will be set back to square one here. Fusion reactor survives with 18 health. That is just ridiculous. But Cataclysm is going to have to rebuild now. There was a Twitcher that was spared, so we can get some build power up and running eventually here. As well as some metal extractors. Actually, the metal extractors survived, oddly enough. Okay. Must have been an Armada nuke. I think a Cortex nuke would have completely destroyed this area. Nuclear bombers, that's quite a nice option for dealing with some of those heavier targets. However, there is anti-air here, so those are eventually going to be shot down. The Marauders, however, are eager to just step on through. These are medium mines, strong enough to scuff up those Marauders pretty badly. You can see that a lot of them go down, but there's still plenty to get into the backline here. Back and forth, back and forth. These players just keep smacking each other in the face. Nobody can catch a break. This is beyond all reason. Marauders are going into Wendile's base for the, gosh, what is this? The third time now? Second time? Third time? And it's so demoralizing. You lose your base once, you're like, okay, I'll rebuild. You lose your base a second time, you're like, okay, maybe if the team really needs me. You lose your base a third time, it's pretty hard to stay in the game after that one. Marauders are continuing into the back line, although they are looking pretty weak here. Soy Boy Goy trying to catch these before they manage to sneak their way into the economies. One of these is pretty low, but that one's looked pretty healthy. It stalled itself, though. Did a little turn around trip, tried to correct itself, managed to instead just get itself killed. Marauders definitely should have gone after the energy converters here. Could have caused a nasty little chain reaction, but instead going to be shut down here. Nicely done by Soy Boy Goy, getting some of those units out on the front lines. Very nicely done. At this point, the Shiva have snuck through, though, and they are going to start tearing apart this base. There is a plasma deflector, which becomes inconvenient for those Shiva. Makes it very difficult for them to fire towards the plasma deflector. Indeed, they will shoot at their own feet, although that is not something they are unaccustomed to. Shiva certainly one of the units ever, and it is one of those ones that is not afraid to fire at anything and everything, including units standing right underneath it. Whoa, a counter nuke was launched, headed directly into the back lines here. Does manage to sneak through and take out a large chunk of the eco here for Herman 87, who's now wondering why he didn't build an anti-nuke sooner. His team, benefiting from the possession of a nuclear launcher, didn't even stop to consider that the enemy might have one as well. More hover tanks over here. Spybot, 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 Spybot. Spybot goes down. Hover tanks continuing to run forward. Brightworks going a little bit insane. Shivas continuing to apply pressure, bouncing their projectiles off all over the place. Karganev missiles not affected by the projectile launcher here. Or the projectile deflector, rather. Very nicely done. The shields are eventually going to get drained here, but it takes heavy firepower before those shields start to really get drained, so these tanks are having a really hard time. They're not getting much effect at the moment. Levi says, hello, we're gonna need a pretty solid response. Oh, well, yeah, nuclear bombers, that'll do it. Sure. Sure. Not what I was expecting, but nuclear bombers certainly an excellent option here. These hover tanks are quite slow, and those nuclear bombers, their little projectile is a homing missile. I believe that's even officially what it's called. Tactical nuclear homing missile fighters coming in here trying to snag some of those nuclear bombers. Getting a little bit upset about those bombers. That's always a sure tail sign. Yeah, and it looks like Cataclysm will be rebuilding off of the front lines. This line is completely open. We need to transition into some sort of amphibious gantry. It looks like the same idea is had here. Ooh, yeah, these constructors were told to build one by one, not simultaneously. All right, quick note for everybody. If you hit V as in Victor and then A as in Alpha, you will select your construction turrets. This works for any building, by the way. If you hold Shift and left Alt, you will make a grid, and then if you hold Spacebar, it will distribute that grid pattern among all of the constructors that you have selected. And so you will build, all of your constructors will start working on that project simultaneously rather than all of them working one by one. The reason you want to do that is because constructors will oftentimes step on each other's toes and cause each other immense grief, and projects will take way longer than before. Think of it sort of like bureaucratic engines that just take millions and millions of years to sort out any sort of paperwork because they're overcomplicated. Whereas if you just assign everybody a simple function like a computer, things get done really quickly. Anyway, my, slightly biased little rant there against bureaucracy aside. Noosphere is going in for a D-gun here on this Titan. Excellent move there. Using those commanders well into the late game. I love to see it. Commander will go down, though. Those Razorbacks eager to shut it down. And for the, the 5th time, 4th time, 6th time, 20th time, Cataclysm will be shut down here. Ragnarok was being built over here. I also noticed a Ragnarok was being built over here, and this confuses me. This definitely confuses me. So if you're planning on firing at basically anything on the map, you want this to be able to shoot. And where it's positioned currently, it cannot. So I'm just confused what this is going to be used for. I suppose it's almost like a defensive Ragnarok in that respect. But it is quite interesting. I have to say, I don't think I've ever seen that before. So it is unique, and you do get bonus points for being unique, even if you're not useful. It's like the shortest pencil in the pencil case. You're not useful, but you are unique. And so, you get a little bit of attention for it. People will covet you. You'll get an eraser cap, probably. Not because you're useful, but because you're unique. Anyways, what am I even talking about? A lot of people comment all the time, you need to stop talking about random stuff and get back to talking about the fights. You're right, I probably should do that, but also, everybody needs a break here and there. Some of these games I feel like go on a little bit longer than maybe they should. Like, for instance, all of this T3, which could easily be sweeping through the red team here, but instead is going to be parked along the shoreline, trying to kill this destroyer that is our own team's. There we go, the Razorbacks. Getting their asses into high gear here, gonna try and actually contribute somewhere around the map. Ooh, a Juggernaut is coming up over here. Quite nice to see. Thought I wouldn't notice, but I sure did. Finally, this build power is abandoned here as we just send a lot of these constructors to go help the lab directly, which is a good move. And yeah, these, well, how much is this? Oh yeah, 200 build power for each of these. Yeah, certainly worth it to just help this lab here. Naval engineers are a little bit bugged. They have to whip out their little rod if they want to assist anything, and then they have to put it completely away, and then they have to whip it back out again if they want to use it. So they have to take it out and put it back, and take it out and put it back, and they have to do that over and over and over whenever they want to build anything at all. It's very inefficient, and I'm pretty sure it's a bug. I don't think they're supposed to work that way. No other constructor in the game works that way. What is dead may never die. Cataclysm showing some real spirit here. Rebuilding into this game for the 5th time here. Gonna be bringing himself back from the dead, and I love to see it. Determination is all that matters here. There are a bunch of res bots that I would love to see him using. Pick up some of these T3 units and start using them however you can. One thing when you die in the late game is you suddenly have a lot of free APM to use, so you can always try and res a couple of units and just micro your heart out, because there's not a whole lot more for you to do. There's not a whole lot more for you to do. Razorback is causing quite a bit of grief over here. There are some Hornets in the air trying to burst it down, as well as some Starlights taking shots here and there. Oh, does get the fusion reactor as well as the build power. That really hurts. Marauders eventually are going to push back this force, and that is tons of metal laying on the ground right there. Certainly enough metal to swing this game either way here. If either team were able to reclaim that, I mean, it's on the red team's side, so I'm assuming the red team would reclaim it. But if they do, and they use it to convert to units and do a little bit of a push, it certainly could be worth it. Really surprised this Ragnarok wasn't shut down. I have to imagine that it was spotted by now, with how many units have been running around all over the place here. But anyway, it will come up and it will start firing immediately. This Ragnarok was built and is starting to be disassembled. What a tragic placement for a Ragnarok. Well, we're going to start up another one right here. It's quite nice. I mean, these Ragnarok shots are eventually going to push through this. These shields don't hold up against Ragnaroks very well at all. Not 2 of them, to say the least. But also, some of these shots are bouncing into the backline here. Whoa, that's a lot of bombers. 38 bombers here. Certainly could do some damage if they fly across. Not really much of an Air Force. Actually, I spoke too soon. There's plenty of Air Force. Both the red player as well as the brown player have both contributed towards building up an Air Force, and so I think there is enough to shut down this many bombers. However, there are also fighters here for X-Blue and X-Red who are holding on. I just realized now it is down to a 2 versus 8. Just goes to show what tapping out early can get you. You end up pulling that trigger a little bit too early, and suddenly your team is now rebounding. And you can see things are slowly starting. Although I guess that doesn't really make sense this game. It was the red team who was in dire trouble here, and now suddenly is recovering. Fighters moved out of position, which means that the nuclear bombers actually can sweep in. They don't have to though, as the Ragnarok blows up the advanced geothermal. And now the nuclear bomber is just gonna fly on by here. You can see it's set to fire at will, so it will just drop a bomb on anything and everything that it can see. Definitely the right move there. It's a setting that I would definitely encourage people to start toggling onwards. It can do a huge amount of damage. Oh, it looks like a lot of all the bombers will be shot down there. It's raining bombers. Hallelujah. The Ragnarok continues to fire away. Looks like X-Blue decides to call GG at this moment. There's not a lot that the red team has at the moment that can... Oh, never mind. I was going to say there's not a lot they have that can actually push into the eco centers. I forgot to acknowledge the fact that there are 11 Marauder sitting on the shoreline over here waiting to be used. There's 2 capital ships and a Juggernaut. And the Juggernaut's going to start heading towards the front line, I suppose. Not a bad idea. Although it'd probably be better to just march the Juggernaut around this direction. You just... Whoops, move it around like this, sweep in from this direction. Eventually a commander is going to stop you, but you might still be able to get a little bit of damage done. Ooh, with the Ragnarok starts firing out into the ocean, tearing down a lot of the build power there, all of the build power there, and suddenly this T3 gantry is shut down. Ragnaroks are so annoying. That's another one. I mentioned it for the Razorback, but when the first calamity or the first Ragnarok starts firing, you really get some panic in your chest here. Marauders do end up pushing in here, taking down the entire base here for X-Blue. It's going to shut down all of that T3 production, and it will only be a matter of time before the final T3 units hit the battlefield. Fighters, accompanied by about 8 nuclear bombers, are sweeping across the map here. They fly over the one spot of static anti-air here that is left. Little unfortunate. Although I don't think this thing has long to live, as nuclear bombers drop their payload, disintegrating everything to atomic molecules, atomic matter, as they fuse and detonate. This bomber just having a great time taking apart this T1 defense. They're looking to get frisky over here too. So dropping those bombs all over the place. They take out the nuke launcher. They probably take out this fusion reactor, I'm guessing. I would love to see most of these pulled away here. We don't need all of them taking out a fusion reactor. There we go. Managed to keep most of them alive here, and they're just going to hover around and start dismantling the back lines here. No air left to contest any of this. So this is just a dead man's final breath as this final bombing run gets shut down. Symbolically showing the end of the struggle here for the blue team. X-Red and X-Blue, I just realized they must be on the same team or something. Maybe it's a gamer couple. Maybe that's what it is. Either way, more and more nuclear bombers coming down here. X-Red still has 3 commanders. That's interesting. Looks like they just refuse to resign. Not gonna go down until the very last commander falls. Is it a little bit BM? Maybe. Oh, alright. Well, just as I was saying that, they do decide to resign it, and I think that was probably the right move here. I don't think there's much coming back from that. What an excellent match there. Love the spybot maneuvers there. I love the tenacity, rebuilding 5 times after being destroyed. Yeah, the back and forth punching on both sides here. The hover tanks sweeping through both sides, the Marauders pushing through in this direction, the nuclear bombers, the T3, the Ragnaroks all over the place. What an epic match. If you agree or if you disagree, you can like or dislike whichever one you feel. Just either input helps. So I guess if you really hate me, you would just do neither. But aside from that, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video.